Moonlight gleamed off the long barrel of the Winchester as Anna Galloway pressed her back against the splintering barn door. Beyond that feeble barricade, 5 outlaws gathered in a ring of torchlight, their voices low and full of menace. The night wind carried the smell of gunpowder, horse sweat, and Anna knew by dawn only one side of that door would still be breathing. Wyoming Territory, 1876, a land of vast skies and lonely horizons, where fierce storms and fiercer men shaped the fate of the living. In a shallow valley along the North Platte River stood the Galloway Ranch. 300 acres of tall, pale grass surrounded a 2-room homestead, a crooked barn, and a few paddocks for mustangs that roamed restlessly. Late summer heat shimmered on the plains, painting the sky a battered gold. On most days, the ranch felt empty without the presence of James Galloway, a man known throughout Laramie County as an honest rancher with a contagious laugh. When he still walked this earth, the homestead echoed with his voice as he called in the cattle at dawn or teased his wife for rising before the sun. But ever since he had fallen beneath outlaw bullets a year ago, the ranch's daily quiet had turned into a heavier silence. Only the horses or the occasional hawk circling overhead gave Anna Galloway any sense that she was not completely alone. Anna was a tall woman with shoulders shaped by labor, her auburn hair usually knotted at the nape of her neck. She was known for a direct gaze that wavered for no man, and the Winchester rifle that rarely left her side told its own story of what that gaze had witnessed and endured. Though she never spoke of it, Anna's greatest fear was that she was ill-equipped to carry on James's legacy alone. The land demanded constant labor and looming threats. Desperate men, roving predators, never stopped testing her claim on the ranch. Her goal was simple in statement but monumental in practice: survive. Survive, and keep the Galloway Ranch from falling into the same hands that had stolen her husband's life. 2 weeks earlier, Anna had taken on a ranch hand named Luke Tanner. He was a drifter who had spent a handful of years up near Montana panning for gold. Some rumors said he was even a Civil War veteran, though he neither confirmed nor denied it. Even so, the tense lines around his eyes, the stubble and the scars across his knuckles hinted at deeper turmoil beneath his quiet manner. Luke always spoke carefully, as if measuring each word against the regrets of his past. He helped mend fences, tend the horses and handle day-to-day chores that Anna couldn't manage alone. Luke's personal goal was never openly stated, but Anna sensed he was running from something, a memory or a sin he refused to put into words. Once, late in the evening, she glimpsed him smoothing out a small photograph of a woman and a little girl, gazing at it with an expression of such longing that Anna had to turn away. Luke's fear seemed to revolve around redemption, failing to find it or failing to be worthy of it. Together they formed a quiet alliance. Anna never asked too many questions, and Luke never pried into her nights of sleepless fear. They had a routine. The dawn would find them riding the fence line, searching for stray horses. They'd do repairs, check the water supply, and by late afternoon Luke would hammer away in the blacksmith shed, or Anna would see to the accounts. It was an uneasy peace for 2 solitary people haunted by the past, but whispers had traveled up the trail, whispers that the Brody gang, newly bold and lawless, had been running cattle off small ranches to the south, and that they had set their sights on Galloway's land. A ranch owned by a lone widow often seemed an easy mark to men who believed in taking what they wanted. The rumors clung to Anna's mind like burrs on a saddle blanket. The days were growing shorter, the nights longer, and a sense of foreboding settled over the ranch. She tried to ignore the creeping dread. The day's chores kept her busy, each sunrise demanded her presence. Yet, at every rustle of leaves or unexpected hoofbeat, she found her hand drifting to the Winchester, or a trickle of sweat along her spine reminding her that one day, soon, danger would reach her doorstep. The first sign of trouble arrived with the dust cloud of horses at twilight. Anna was hauling a bucket of water from the well when she saw 3 riders coming over the ridge. Luke, sensing the shift in the air, dropped the fence wire he was carrying and moved beside her. There was no mistaking the ragged silhouette of men who made a living by violence. Even from half a mile out, Anna could see the rifles bristling from their saddles. Luke's gaze hardened. "You want me to fetch the shotgun?" he asked quietly. Anna swallowed, thinking of James. Once upon a time he would have calmly stepped forward to greet any visitor. But now, "Yes," she said, "and keep it ready." The men arrived at the yard and halted their sweating horses. Their leader was a tall, wary man with sunken cheeks, wearing a threadbare coat patched at the elbows. He tipped his hat with a mocking flourish. "Mighty fine place you've got here," he drawled. "Word is, this ranch used to belong to James Galloway." Anna steadied her voice. "It still belongs to James Galloway," she replied. "Is just not here anymore." The man gave her a shark's grin, revealing a row of stained teeth. "Of course. My condolences. Now, see, we represent a group of traveling gentlemen. We've heard about some mustangs you have. Top quality, they say. We're interested in cutting a deal, or maybe you'd consider letting us graze our own stock on that good grass out back. For a price, of course." Anna set her bucket down, ignoring the cold tension in her gut. "The mustangs aren't for sale," she said, "and the ranch isn't open range. You want your horses fed, go find your own pasture. We're not in the business of hosting thieves." The man's eyes flicked to Luke, who stood quietly at the porch with a shotgun cradled in his arms. He smirked. "Your ranch hand there looks like he's itching to pull that trigger, but we didn't come to make trouble, ma'am. We'll be heading on. Just think real hard on what we said. We'll come back to settle it soon." They rode off, leaving a choking swirl of dust in their wake. The next few moments hung like lead. Anna let out a shaky breath only when she was sure they wouldn't turn around. She felt Luke's eyes on her, but no words came. She picked up her bucket and went inside. That night, Anna barely slept. She stared out the window and watched each breeze calm through the grass under a sky that looked like black velvet pricked with silver. An owl screeched in the distance. She remembered James telling her once that men who threatened unarmed women were the lowest kind of scum. And yet these outlaws had looked armed to the teeth, perfectly prepared to make her life hell. A part of her considered packing up and leaving. But that would mean letting the land fall into their hands. It would mean letting James's memory vanish like dust on the wind. That was something Anna Galloway refused to do. The tension in the air had only grown heavier. Anna, exhausted, tried to focus on daily tasks, caring for the horses, mending the roof, collecting supplies from the storage shed. She needed to restock bullets. The nearest town was a day's ride away, which meant leaving the ranch vulnerable if she went. Luke noticed her worry. "We're low on ammunition," he said quietly. "If trouble comes, we might not have enough to keep Emma for long." Anna stared at the chipped varnish on her dining table, her jaw set. "I'll ride to Casper tomorrow morning," she decided. "Bring back all the bullets and supplies we can afford. You stay here and keep an eye on things." Luke nodded, his voice reluctant. "All right, I'll keep watch." They both understood the risk. If Anna got ambushed on the trail, or if the outlaws attacked while Luke was alone, everything could be lost. But it was better than letting the ranch run short on ammunition. At dawn, Anna saddled one of the sturdier mustangs. Starfire, a mare with a fiery temperament. She packed a few provisions, an extra canteen of water, and tucked a revolver at her hip. Then she rode out under a sky that glowed with pink and orange ribbons, leaving Luke behind to keep the homestead guarded. The ride to Casper was long and lonesome. The ground was broken by scrub brush, rocky outcroppings, and the occasional twisted tree. The sun climbed high, beating mercilessly down. Sweat trickled down Anna's brow. She kept scanning the horizon, half expecting to see that gang appear. Yet the journey was uneventful. She arrived in Casper by early afternoon, heading straight to the general store to purchase bullets for her Winchester and a few boxes of shells for Luke's shotgun. At the front of the store, she noticed a flyer tacked to the wall, 500 reward for the Brody gang, wanted dead or alive. Beside the crude sketches of 5 outlaws stood the name Jedediah Brody, the same face she had seen in her yard. A swirl of anger gripped her. Men like Brody operated like buzzards, circling vulnerable ranchers and small homesteads until they could swoop in for the kill. Anna took the supplies, made for the livery stable to water Starfire, and prepared for the return trip. She wanted to be back before sundown. The store owner, a kindly older man named Jenkins, tried to convince her to stay overnight. "The roads aren't safe, Mrs. Galloway. You'll be riding near dark and them outlaws." "I know," she said, packing her saddlebags, "but I've got someone waiting on me, and I won't leave him alone any longer than I must." The storekeeper gave her a grim nod. "Take care," he said. Anna rode hard that afternoon, pushing Starfire to keep up a brisk pace. The hot wind whipped her hair and stung her eyes. She felt a growing sense of urgency as the day wore on. Clouds gathered in the western sky, dark as lead. By the time the sun brushed the horizon, she could see flashes of lightning in the distance. A storm would soon sweep across the plains. Night finally closed in while she was still half an hour from the ranch. The wind howled, thunder rattled overhead, and the mare skittered sideways at each lightning strike. Rain began to lash the earth, turning the dirt into slippery mud. Anna clenched her teeth, urging Starfire forward. Suddenly, a shape flashed in the darkness, a silhouette on horseback. Lightning illuminated a man in a broad hat, looming on a ridge. Anna's blood turned cold, and she jerked her rifle from the scabbard. But in the next bolt the silhouette was gone. The wind roared, and the shadows closed in. She could not be certain if she had really seen one of the Brody gang or just a swirl of illusions conjured by storm and nightfall. For the next mile, Anna rode with her heart pounding, alert to every flicker of movement. When she finally reached the ranch, she found Luke waiting anxiously under the porch roof with a lantern. Relief bloomed in his eyes as he saw her riding in, drenched and trembling but alive. She dismounted and nearly collapsed in his arms. "Any trouble here?" she gasped, pushing wet strands of hair from her face. Luke shook his head. "No, but I was worried about you." He helped her bring the supplies inside, took Starfire to the barn, and tried to warm some coffee over the stove. The storm battered the roof, and they could hardly hear each other over the crashing downpour. Anna told him about the glimpse of the rider. "Could be any stray traveler," Luke muttered, though he didn't sound convinced. "We'll stay awake tonight. Keep the guns within reach. I'll do a patrol if the rain lets up." Both of them knew the storm was at once a blessing and a curse. It might discourage marauders from attacking, but it also masked any approach in darkness and noise. Sleep was impossible. Instead, they waited in uneasy silence, the storm shrieking across the plains. The following night arrived under clear skies, as if the land were holding its breath. Anna and Luke did their best to secure the ranch, reinforcing doors, barricading windows, making sure the barn stalls had extra latches. By evening, a quiet gloom settled over the yard. The horses stirred restlessly, tossing their heads at shadows. In the main cabin's dim lamp light, Anna and Luke checked their firearms. Anna loaded the Winchester carefully, her fingers steady but her chest tight. Luke set aside the scattergun to clean his pistol. Tension hung between them, unspoken. They both knew that if the Brody gang decided to strike, it could be that very night. Under the cover of a moonless sky, a sudden scraping noise at the front porch made them freeze. Anna's heart hammered. She motioned for Luke to dose the lamp. He did so, plunging the cabin into near blackness. Through the small gap in the shutters, Anna peered outside. A single figure stood in the yard, hands raised above his head in a show of peace. She recognized the battered shape of the local deputy, Hank Ross. He was breathing hard, had askew. She unbarred the door, rifle in hand, and let him in. "Mom, I rode out here as soon as I got word." Hank panted. "Brody's men ransacked a ranch a few miles south of you. They'll likely come here next. You need to pack up and head to Casper. The sheriff sent me to warn you." Anna's grip on the Winchester tightened. "Leave. And then what? Let them burn the place?" Hank wiped sweat from his brow. I've seen them. They're ruthless. They'll kill you both. There's no one left to stop them. The sheriff, well, he's got a small posse, but we're outnumbered. If you stay here, you'll be alone." Luke shifted. "We can't just abandon the ranch, Deputy. You know that." Hank sighed, looking from Anna to Luke. "At least barricade yourselves well if you're dead set on staying. I'll do what I can to organize the posse, but it'll be hours before we can gather enough men, maybe all night. By then, God knows what might happen." Anna saw the conflict in Hank's eyes. He wanted to help, but also knew the odds were dire. She reached out, gripping his arm. "If you see them on the road, send word back," she pleaded. "We'll hold as best we can." Hank nodded once. With a somber glance, he turned back to his horse, spurred it, and rode off, the dust swallowing him. Anna closed the door. For a moment, neither she nor Luke spoke. The final hour before midnight dragged by with suffocating tension. Midnight found Anna in the barn, making a last inspection of the stall doors. The lantern flame wavered in a faint draft, creating dancing shadows against the barn's rough timbers. The horses flicked their ears, tails swishing as if sensing her anxiety. Suddenly, a shrill whistle cut across the silence. Anna's heart stuttered. She set the lantern on a crate, drew her rifle, and moved to the barn door. In the distance, she saw the orange glow of torches, maybe 5, maybe 6, bobbing up and down as riders approached. Their shapes were murky, but the malicious intent was clear. Luke appeared out of the darkness, gripping the shotgun. "They're coming," he whispered, voice tight. "We should fall back to the cabin. It's sturdier." Anna hesitated. The barn sheltered their precious horses and supplies, but the cabin would be easier to defend. She nodded. "All right, let's go." They darted across the yard, boots thudding on the packed dirt. As they reached the cabin's porch, a shot rang out. The bullet smacked into the wall behind them with a dull thud. Anna and Luke ducked inside, slamming and barring the door. Anna cursed under her breath. The attack had begun. Lights flickered through the shutters. She crouched at a window, carefully drawing aside the curtain. 6 outlaws had fanned out around the yard. One tall figure, no doubt Jedediah Brody, lifted a torch high and yelled, "Anna Galloway! We've come for that land, and your horses! Step on out, and maybe we'll let you live till morning." Luke's jaw clenched. "He's lying." Anna nodded. "Of course he is." Rage and grief crashed together inside her. She pressed the rifle to her shoulder, steadied her aim through the shutter gap, and squeezed the trigger. The shot thundered. Outside, a cry of pain rang out. She'd hit somebody. Torches bobbed wildly as the outlaws scrambled for cover. Brody's voice echoed, "Furious, you'll pay for that, woman!" Hoofbeats sounded circling. Gunfire erupted, bullets smashing into the porch railing, splintering wood. Anna and Luke ducked low, the acrid smell of gunpowder mingling with dust and fear. They exchanged a grim nod. Anna's eyes burned, tears threatening. "Hold on," she told herself, "for James's memory, for the ranch, for your own life." The outlaws, clearly not content to wait, changed tactics. One of them rushed forward, hurling a flaming torch onto the barn's roof. Dry as tinder, the roof caught the spark quickly. In moments, tongues of flame licked up into the darkness. Anna's heart clenched. The barn, her horses, the lifeblood of the ranch, were inside. She heard their terrified whinnies. "Luke," she gasped, rushing to the door. He caught her arm. "It's suicide to run out there," he hissed. Bullets still hammered the cabin walls, glass windows cracking under the assault. "They'll die, Luke." She jerked free. "I can't just let them burn." Luke's face twisted with indecision. "Cover me," he finally said. "I'll try to open the stalls." Before Anna could protest, Luke shoved open the door, sprinted onto the porch, and fired both barrels of the shotgun in the outlaw's direction. The muzzle flash lit the yard for a split second, revealing men crouched behind crates and fence posts. Then Luke dashed towards the barn. Anna knelt at the window, pumping the Winchester's lever and snapping off shots. Each report echoed into the night. She aimed for muzzle flashes, trying to keep the outlaws pinned so Luke might have time to save the horses. Flames spiraled higher, and she could hear the barn's timbers groaning. A bullet whizzed past her face, so close she felt the heat of it. She pulled back, breath ragged. One of the outlaws yelled, "She's reloading. Go!" Footsteps thundered across the yard. 2 men rushed the cabin. Anna jammed fresh shells into the rifle, snapped it shut, and squeezed the trigger as one man burst onto the porch. The shot caught him in the chest. He stumbled back with a strangled cry, collapsing into the dirt. The second man dove sideways, returning fire. Wood splintered near Anna's head, and she scrambled for better cover. Another volley of bullets hammered the cabin. She prayed Luke would finish in time. Suddenly, a shrill whinny cut the air. The barn doors slammed open, and half a dozen spooked horses bolted into the yard, manes streaming like ghosts. Luke, coughing from smoke, staggered after them. He stumbled behind the water trough, rifle in hand, trying to keep low. He had saved most of the animals, though the barn's roof was now fully ablaze, lighting the yard in eerie, flickering orange. One of the outlaws fired at Luke, but missed. Anna took aim, and the next shot clipped the gunman's leg. He cursed, dropping behind a half-broken wagon. The yard had become a battlefield of swirling smoke, stampeding horses and muzzle flashes. The heat from the barn fire baked the night air, sweat pouring down Anna's neck. How long until dawn? The question pulsed in her mind. They needed to survive until the pos, if it even came. Brody's voice thundered, "Burn her out." They launched more torches, this time aiming at the cabin's roof. Flames danced across the shingles. Smoke billowed. Anna realized the old boards would not hold back the fire for long. Once the roof caught in earnest, the cabin would be an oven. She glanced at Luke huddled behind the trough, pinned down by gunfire. The plan to fortify in the cabin was quickly becoming a death trap. They needed a new vantage, somewhere they could make a stand without being cooked alive. The only place that wasn't yet ablaze was an old stone shed near the well, small and cramped, but built of rock. "Luke!" she screamed, voice lost in the chaos. She fired into the darkness, forcing the outlaws to keep their heads down, then raced out the door. Smoke stung her eyes, and the heat rolled over her in waves. She reached the water trough, yanked Luke up by his collar. "Stone shed," she rasped, pointing through the haze. They ran, rifles clutched tight, bullets zipping past. Anna's shoulder jolted as something clipped her, a grazing shot. She bit back a cry, stumbling but refusing to stop. Her feet pounded the dirt until she dove behind the stone shed's thick walls. Luke sprawled next to her, choking for breath. The old stone walls were damp from the storm's leftover moisture, offering a measure of safety from the spreading inferno. One small window faced the yard. They crawled to it, setting up a vantage point. Now Anna could see the entire homestead in grim silhouette, the main cabin's roof on fire, the barn collapsing into a pyre, smoke churning into the sky. "It's all going up in flames." Luke gasped, sweat streaming down his face. Anna's stomach twisted. Her ranch, her home, James's dream, was burning before her eyes. She felt rage well in her throat like bile. She had never in her life felt such fierce desperation. Brody's gang had inflicted this destruction for no reason but greed and cruelty. Slapping the last of her cartridges into the Winchester, she locked her jaw. "We're not dead yet." The gunfire quieted for a moment, as if both sides were catching their breath. From her vantage, Anna saw one outlaw staggering from a wound, 2 crouched behind smoldering debris, and a silhouette near the cabin that might be Brody himself. The rest lurked somewhere in the darkness. Then a new rider approached, alone. The horse trotted carefully through the yard, weaving around the flaming wreckage. Anna tensed, but as the rider drew near, the light revealed a deputy's star glinting on his vest. It was Hank Ross again, except something was off. He didn't look frightened. Instead, he carried himself with an odd confidence. He stopped in front of Brody, brandishing a small slip of paper. Anna's breath caught as she watched the scene. Luke cursed under his breath, realizing the same thing: Hank had not come to help them. Hank leaned toward Brody, voice just loud enough for Anna to catch snatches. "The property deed law's worthless out here. half the payoff. Anna's stomach lurched. Hank sold us out. The deputy had told them he was riding off to raise a posse, yet here he was, calmly negotiating with the outlaws. The betrayal cut her deeper than any bullet wound. Brody barked a laugh, slapping Hank's shoulder in congratulation. Hank dismounted, pocketing a pouch that glinted dully, silver maybe. They turned to face the stone shed. Hank's voice echoed, carried by the swirling smoke. "Anna! Luke! It's over. Best come out." Luke spat. "That snake. We never should have trusted him." Anna felt cold fury press down on her heart. She counted the bullets in her head, realized she had precious few left. Luke's supply was equally grim. There would be no triumphant last stand if they kept shooting blindly. But surrender. That was unthinkable. She pictured James in her mind, his easy grin. "I won't let them take everything." She inhaled, fighting tears. "Even if I die, I'll take Brody with me if I can." "Anna Galloway!" Brody's voice rang out. "I've got men to the east, men to the west. The rest of your place is kindling. You're cornered. You come out, I swear on my dear mother's grave we'll only take your horses. Maybe even let you keep a piece of your precious land." Anna's lips curled with scorn. "He's lying," she whispered to Luke. "Then, louder, Brody, you want my ranch so bad you'd better come get it?" A frustrated shout answered, followed by a hail of bullets peppering the stone walls. Chips of rock flew in a stinging spray, forcing Anna and Luke to duck. Smoke from the barn fire was drifting over them, swirling into their lungs. Luke hacked out a cough, pressing a folded bandana to his mouth. "We can't stay here much longer. The smoke'll choke us, and we're running low on ammo." Anna closed her eyes, letting a wave of despair wash over her. Something James once said echoed in her mind. "In the worst of times, you gotta keep your soul intact, Annie. Never become the monster you fight." But here she was, ready to kill or be killed. Was that truly monstrous, or was it survival? Her chest tightened. She drew in a breath, ignoring the sting of ash. "We'll make one last stand," she said softly. "If we don't come out of this, at least we go out with our souls." Luke nodded, jaw clenched. "It's been an honor, Mrs. Galloway." For a moment, their eyes met, an unspoken bond of respect and shared determination. Then they both prepared for the final push. Anna checked the Winchester, 3 rounds left. Luke had 2 shells for the shotgun and a single bullet in his pistol. Outside, the outlaws had gathered near the wagon. 8 men remained on their feet, counting Hank. They had the advantage in numbers, but some were wounded, and the swirling smoke made them cautious. Anna whispered, "We'll rush out, use the chaos. If we can drop Brody, the rest might break." Luke exhaled slowly. "Ready." Before fear could paralyze her, Anna shoved away from the stone wall, bursting into the open with her Winchester raised. She angled towards a stack of crates for partial cover. Luke was only a step behind, letting out a roar as he fired both barrels at a figure behind the wagon. The man went down screaming. Gunfire erupted on all sides, and Anna dove behind the crates, slamming her shoulder painfully on the ground. She brought the rifle up, fired at a pair of legs scuttling behind a half-burned fence post. Another bullet whipped past her ear. Smoke choked her throat, flames hissed and popped behind her. A shape lunged at her from the left, one of Brody's men with a knife. She swung the rifle butt in a desperate arc, catching him in the temple. He reeled, dropping the blade, and she finished him with a shot to the chest. The recoil jarred her bruised shoulder. She nearly dropped the rifle. Luke found himself pinned by 2 gunmen near the wagon. He squeezed off a pistol round, hitting one in the belly. The other aimed at Luke's head. Anna cried out, wanting to warn him, but Luke had already ducked, rolling behind a water barrel. The shot splintered the barrel's wood, spraying water and steam into the blazing yard. Somewhere Anna heard Hank yelling, "Stop shooting, you damn fools! You'll kill me in the crossfire!" Another bullet hissed overhead. She snapped her rifle open, empty. Her heart lurched. She pawed for spare cartridges in her belt. 2 left. She jammed them in, levered the rifle closed. In that moment she locked eyes with Jedediah Brody himself. He stood just beyond the swirling smoke, revolver in hand, an unholy grin twisting his features. He raised his gun. She braced against the crate, finger on the trigger. Time seemed to slow. The reflection of the fire in Brody's eyes, the acrid taste of gun smoke on her tongue, the pounding of her heart that deafened her. A single shot rang out, Luke's pistol. The bullet caught Brody's wrist, spoiling his aim. His shot cracked harmlessly into the sky. Anna took her chance and fired. The round tore through Brody's thigh. He dropped to one knee with a cry, blood darkening his trousers. With a snarl, he tried to raise his gun again, but Anna had him in her sights. She could end him right there, avenge James's murder, rid the territory of a devil. Her hand trembled. The memory of James's dying moments, shot by outlaws not so different from this, burned in her mind. She had sworn never to become as merciless as the killers she despised. But if she let Brody live, how many more would he kill? Her vision blurred with tears. So many nights she'd lain awake, the phantom weight of James's body next to her, the house too quiet. This man had stolen her husband's life. Anna's jaw tightened. Her finger curled on the trigger. Brody spat blood. "Go on," he taunted, voice ragged. "Finish it. Show me what you've got." Widow Galloway. She froze, waging an inner battle that cut deeper than any bullet. Her soul strained beneath the fury. James wouldn't want me to become a cold-blooded executioner. But how can I let him live? Behind Brody, Hank Ross stared wide-eyed, torn between fleeing and helping his wounded ally. Luke appeared at Anna's side, battered and bleeding from a cut above his eyebrow. He aimed his pistol at Hank, preventing the deputy from interfering. Anna breathed in, shoulders heaving, the muzzle of the Winchester trained on Brody's chest. She could taste her own tears. The moral weight of the moment pressed upon her like a thundercloud. "No, I cannot be like them." With a sob, Anna lifted her barrel an inch. She fired, but the shot whipped across the ground next to Brody's hand, close enough to splinter the wood by his knees, to let him know she could have ended him. She didn't. "You're done," she choked. "I won't kill a defenseless man. Not even you." Brody blinked in disbelief, fury warring with shock. His leg was bleeding profusely. He wasn't going anywhere. Hank, however, saw his chance. He snatched his revolver up. Luke turned to fire, but the deputy was a second faster. A shot cracked. Luke staggered, the pistol slipping from his grip. Anna screamed, pivoting to face Hank, her heart plunging. Hank took aim again, but in that instant Brody, delirious from blood loss, turned his own gun on Hank. Double-crosser, he snarled and pulled the trigger. Hank's face registered stunned betrayal as the bullet struck him square in the back. He collapsed, wheezing, his revolver clattering to the ground. Anna stood there, breath ragged, trying to absorb what had just happened. Hank was dying. Brody was collapsing into the dust. The other outlaws had fled or were too wounded to continue the fight. Flames still danced around the yard, devouring the remains of the barn. She rushed to Luke, who knelt, pressing a hand to his shoulder. Blood seeped between his fingers. It didn't look immediately fatal, but the color was draining from his face. "Hang on," she whispered, tears streaking her suit, darkened cheeks. "We'll get you patched up." Luke managed a faint nod, grimacing. Around them, the yard was bathed in unearthly light. A spark-filled wind blew, scattering embers. The night was nearly over, and the first pale hint of dawn touched the eastern sky. Anna looked up from Luke's wound, scanning the carnage. Brody lay across from her, breathing shallowly, glaring at the stars above as if cursing them. Hank had gone utterly still, the deputy's star glinting in the fiery glow. The ranch had survived, but in ruin. Time stretched, and then Anna heard the sound of horses riding hard over the ridge. Lanterns bobbed in the pre-dawn haze. The posse arrived, too late for the worst of it, but perhaps not too late to help save Luke. Anna called out, her voice hoarse, "Hare, over here!" A group of lawmen and ranchers, men from town who had finally been rallied, dismounted. They looked aghast at the scene. The sheriff knelt, pressing a cloth to Luke's shoulder wound. Another set of hands pulled Anna gently away, offering water and a blanket. Wordlessly, she gazed around her smoldering yard, numb. But she was alive. Luke was alive, and Jedediah Brody, well, the law would take care of him now. Whatever illusions of power the outlaw leader had, they were fading with the firelight. When the sun fully crested the horizon, illuminating the ruined homestead, the posse helped bury the dead. They found 6 outlaws, some shot, others trampled by horses. One was still breathing and surrendered himself, whimpering for mercy. Jedediah Brody, unconscious from blood loss, was carted to town in the back of a wagon under armed guard. Hank Ross was laid out with the rest, the star pinned to his chest. Perhaps in the end, the price of betrayal had come swiftly. Luke, bandaged and shaky, sat propped against the remains of the well. Anna knelt beside him, exhausted but determined. She had lost the cabin and the barn, but not her life or her moral core. In time, she could rebuild. Luke's hand found hers. "It wasn't for nothing," he murmured. "You did it. You held them off all night." Anna bowed her head, letting tears fall freely for James, for the ranch that had burned, for the uncertain future. But in those tears she felt a strange sense of hope. The Galloway ranch lived on as long as she did, and she had not become a monster to preserve it. Sometimes mercy stands on the edge of vengeance, and only our willingness to remain human keeps us from spiraling into darkness. Even in the heart of unimaginable loss, holding on to compassion can preserve the best of who we are. Resilience forged in the fires of hardship can outlast the cruelest storms. Ultimately, it is not the bullets we fire that define us, but the ones we choose not to fire. Thank you for listening to this tale of grit, mercy, and survival on the frontier. If you found meaning in Anna Galloway's stand against the odds, please like, subscribe, and share your own thoughts on courage and compassion in the comments below. Your voice keeps these stories alive.